very much was Space Pirates. And most of that is gone, unfortunately. It's a very good one, that. Very enjoyable.
One of the joys of presenting this selection is being able to choose my own personal favorite episode. But it didn't take me long to decide. I've chosen an episode from the 1971 story, The Demons. Now, in many ways, this is an example of the excellent team spirit which featured so heavily during many of my stories. On the acting side, I'm joined by Katie Manning as Joe Grant, one of my favorite companions, the Master, the Brigadier, Sergeant Benton, and Captain Yates. And on the production side, it was written by Barry Letts, the producer, under the pen name of Guy Leopold, and directed by Christopher Barry. All in all, my Doctor Who family.
I don't know that I have a favorite episode. I remember being asked that before. I do remember enjoying particularly the designs, I think, in a story called The Ark in Space, which I thought was very well designed. And I remember something about a giant rat that I liked as well, yeah.
For many episodes, it was Earthshock. I liked Eric Saywood. He was a script editor. I thought his writing was particularly good. But I suppose in the end, it was eclipsed by Caves of Androzani, which was a Robert Holmes story. So it was a really classic piece of Doctor Who writing, and we had a brilliant cast, and we had a great director. Apart from the last 30 seconds, when I turned into Colin Baker, I would say that was my favourite story.
But I think, as a viewer, I'll answer as a viewer, my favourite story was probably The Empty Child, which was... the first season. I just thought it was a terrifying... Stephen Moffat wrote the story. The Caves of Androzani did beat it as best story ever, but never mind it. Yeah, I think The Empty Child was a great story.
What was your favourite story to film while you were on the television show?
I'm not a great fan of the F word, favourite.
Okay.
But the fact that Patrick Troughton was in Two Doctors, I'll say that because for me, he was the man who did the hardest job of the lot, the first regeneration. Whosever idea that was, I don't know, but that first regeneration is the one that made it possible for the programme to last as long as it had. If the second Doctor had not been the genius that Pat Troughton was, he wouldn't be sitting here talking to the sixth, and there wouldn't be a 12th. And he was a lovely man. I'd shared a flat with his son for years, David Troughton, who was in 2 or 3 episodes of Doctor Who, 2 or 3 different stories. And so I knew Pat. I was David's best man when he got married. So I met Patrick Troughton then. And doing the Two Doctors with him was just wonderful. He's such a good actor.
What was your favorite episode to film?
I mean, I suppose my favorite in a way was the one with the Daleks, because I didn't really feel I was true Doctor, so I'd taken on the Daleks. And when they gave me the script, in it, they had me with bazookas blowing up Daleks. And my philosophy when I got Doctor Who was that my Doctor, being an alien, would use his brain rather than his brawn. And that was, to me, very important. And also I thought that was a very good lesson, because we have lots of children watch Doctor Who, like, you know, here in Britain as well. And it was that kind of thing of not celebrating violence, although entertainment needs violence. So they gave me a bazooka. I said, no, I'm not going to use a bazooka, but Ace can. So she had all the fun, actually, of blowing people up, and I didn't. But that was the thing. So Ace got all that fun, really. So, but then, as a revenge, the last bit where I destroy a Dalek at the very end of it, it said in the script I had the bazooka, and I said, no, I don't do that. And so the writer went away, and in his revenge, he wrote me a very long speech. I had to talk the Dalek to death. So I had to learn the lines.
Do you personally have a favorite companion or story from your time with Big Finish?
Yes. Yeah, I do. The favourite story is Shada.
Okay.
Just because that really got the ball rolling for us. And it was this Douglas Adams script that, you know, and it had a bit of history. It was great. But later on, when I got to work with Sheridan Smith, I was really happy. It was fantastic. So there's your answer. But I don't want to let the others down.
Oh no.
I think this present. I don't know how many of you follow Dark Eyes, but Ruth Bradley is fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, wherever you are.
I particularly liked the Dalek episode. Dramatically, I had a lot to do there. And I liked the 2 Stephen Moffat episodes, The Doctor Dances and The Empty Child. I felt Stephen wrote for my Doctor particularly well. So I felt like I had the bullets to fire.
What was my favourite episode to do? Do you know, it's so hard to pick favourites because they were all so different. It's not like filming, like with other shows that I filmed, shows that I love, but you can't necessarily differentiate what each episode is because they're sort of part of an ongoing story that use the same locations or whatever. Each episode of Doctor Who was so different. One of them was in Pompeii, one of them was on the moon, one of them was in set 5 billion years in the future, one of them was set in Victorian Scotland. So every episode had a different guest cast. So it feels wrong to choose favourites really, because each one was such an exciting time. That's part of why it was so sad to leave, because you knew you were never going to have an experience quite like that anywhere else. So I sort of don't pick favourites, because as soon as I pick a favourite, I'll then think, oh no, actually that other one's my favourite. It was, they're all my favourite. Which is your favourite?
I don't have a favourite either.
Mine is probably just because I think it's funny, you know, with the same sort of monsters that come back, and sometimes I think we don't always make them better, which you know, which we try to. But Tomb of the Cybermen, that's a Patrick Troughton episode, and I think the Cybermen were particularly sort of brilliant in that, really, and really scary. So it's always been a favourite one of mine.
One of the most fun episodes for me is the last episode of Frontier in Space. The final episode, when the Doctor discovers that he's been caught up in a web of intrigue. It's a classic Doctor Who story with classic Doctor Who villains, and also a fabulous moment where Jon Pertwee uses the telepathic circuit of the TARDIS. It's the first time I remember actually seeing it being used. That's a great episode. I think Ark in Space is a fabulous story. It's Tom Baker's second story, and he absolutely takes a hold of the part and makes it his completely in that episode. But it's a wonderful Base Under Siege story. It is very much what Doctor Who is about, in the sense that its ambition is sort of greater than the resources available to it. But the ideas are very potent and delicious and wonderful and live with you. The 10th Planet, with the original Cybermen in it, has some great moments. Bits of the Web Planet, which of course is Doctor Who at its most sort of Festival of Britain-ish, with strange kind of actors doing strange kind of movement and mime. The incredible ambition to try and render an insect world on basically what looked like a budget of £15 a week. It's immensely successful.
Well, my favourite episode. I don't like to pick favourite episodes, so I will say my first episode. Because I arrived.
I was wondering what your favourite episode's shooting was.
But I think the one that really, for me, will always be the most precious is The Woman Who Fell to Earth, because it gave me the best entrance ever into any character. I got my own little soundtrack when I stood up, and it just, the whole thing of it, and also the transition of finding the Doctor throughout and finding who I wanted to be and finding these guys and the chemistry, and then the hero speech of realizing and knowing who you are, and then at the end of it kind of creating this costume and this look. I absolutely loved it, and I thought, if this is how we're starting, this is just going to be the time of my life. And it was. Oh, thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Favorite Doctor Who episode? That's intense. I'd say Christmas 2023.
The right answer.
23,
Yes,
yeah. It's my favorite ep.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the YouTube channel.